We all live on the same planet. It is in everyone's interest at some point to do business, regardless of the various political systems that each country embraces. So I think the notion that somehow or another the Europeans are going to say, you're right. To be successful in Ukraine, which is, of course, an utterly absurd notion anyway, what we need to do now is cut off relations with China, cut ourselves off virtually from the rest of the world, from India, from everyone else, because all of these states are in one way or another doing business with Russia. Turkey is an excellent example. Turk Stream is vitally important to the Turks. They want desperately to have that energy. That energy fuels their industry. They're looking at what has happened in Germany, and they're asking themselves, why would we ever do this? Why would we cut ourselves off from Russia? Do we want to follow Germany down into the hell that Germany has created for itself in this allegedly noble crusade against evil Russia? It's a lot of nonsense. Makes no sense. So I think it's all going to fall apart. And at the same time, of course, we're looking at Europe, and we're seeing all these nationalist parties all over the continent who are effectively coming to power increasingly. That is to say, they're reaching a point in terms of popular support that makes it impossible to keep them from power any longer. And the good news is that the kind of nationalism these states are all espousing has nothing to do with attacking anyone. It has everything to do with what is in the interest of their own country, what's good for their societies. How do they protect themselves, their culture, their identity, their way of life, as well as their economic system? And I think this is the death knell of globalism, frankly. And whether President Trump is playing, as his supporters say, 4D chess, urging everybody to do sanctions the way he is, I have no idea. I rather suspect that some people in his administration are probably thinking in terms of further divorcing certainly Western Europe from Russia and China and other countries. But frankly speaking, I don't see any evidence that that will happen. So I think his plea for everyone else to sanction Russia, sanction China, sanction Turkey, sanction India, and remember, many of the countries that he's determined that we should sanction in one way or another are historic friends, strategic partners of the United States. It doesn't seem to matter anymore. And that's the tragedy of all of this. It goes back to the tariff war that he launched. Suddenly, everyone in the world is treated as the enemy and is subjected to tariffs. There was no discrimination. So again, I fear that he's quite serious, and he's going to be monumentally disappointed because I don't think any of it is going to work.
You just heard Colonel Douglas Macgregor, decorated combat veteran, former defense official, and one of the few voices inside the American establishment willing to speak truth, deliver a devastating warning. Cutting off the world from Russia isn't going to work because everyone lives on the same planet. And he's not just talking about energy. He's talking about reality. Because while Western leaders preach moral crusades and isolationist sanctions, the rest of the world is asking, why should we destroy our economies for a war we didn't start? Let's unpack what Macgregor said and why this moment reveals the crumbling of the globalist order. Macgregor starts with a simple truth. We all live on the same planet, and that means countries will do business. Economies depend on trade. Nations prioritize survival over ideology. So, when Europe says, we must cut off Russia and anyone who trades with it, they're not being principled. They're being delusional. Because look at the world. China trades with Russia. India buys Russian oil. Turkey runs on Russian gas via Turkstream. South Africa, Brazil, Indonesia all maintain ties. And why? Because their people need energy, affordable fuel, and economic stability. Not some noble crusade against Moscow. As Macgregor puts it, do they want to follow Germany down into the hell it has created for itself? And the answer is clear. No. Germany bet everything on deindustrialization and green dogma, and now its economy is collapsing. Factories are closing. Power bills are soaring. Jobs are vanishing. And for what? To please Washington? To prove loyalty to NATO? The rest of the world sees it, and they're refusing to repeat the mistake. Macgregor highlights Turkey as a perfect example. It's a NATO member, but it also runs on Russian energy. Turkstream delivers natural gas directly from Russia under the Black Sea, powering Turkish industry, heating homes, and fueling growth. And Ankara isn't about to cut that off, no matter how many lectures it gets from Brussels or DC. Because Turkey isn't interested in ideological purity. It cares about energy security, economic survival, national interest, and so do most nations. That's not betrayal. That's common sense. And the fact that the U.S. wants to sanction Turkey, India, China, even historic allies, shows how detached Washington has become from reality. Suddenly, everyone is the enemy. Even friends, even partners, all because they refuse to join the sanctions regime. Then Macgregor drops a bombshell. This is the death nail of globalism. And he's right. Across Europe, nationalist parties are rising. In France, in Italy, in Hungary, in Germany, in Sweden, in the Netherlands. And they're not coming to power by accident. They're coming because the people are fed up with sanctions that hurt them, not Russia. Elites who ignore their suffering. Leaders who serve Brussels, not their own countries. And what do these nationalist movements stand for? Not war, not imperialism, but what's good for their country, what protects their culture, what saves their economy, what keeps their lights on. That's not extremism. That's patriotism. And Macgregor makes it clear. This kind of nationalism has nothing to do with attacking anyone. It's about self-preservation. And that's why globalism is dying. Because you can't sell international bureaucracy when people can't afford to heat their homes. Macgregor doesn't let Trump off the hook either. He points to the tariff war, where the U.S. suddenly treated all trading partners as adversaries. No discrimination, no strategy, just blanket tariffs on friends and rivals alike. And now, Trump wants the world to sanction Russia, sanction China, sanction India, sanction Turkey, even though many of these nations are strategic partners, even though cutting them off would destroy supply chains, raise prices, and trigger recession. But none of that matters, because the ideology demands obedience. And if you don't comply, you're labeled an enemy. Macgregor calls it what it is. The tragedy of all of this. Because this isn't foreign policy. It's punishment. And it won't work. Because the world isn't going to starve, freeze, or collapse just to please Washington. Macgregor ends with a sobering prediction. I think it's all going to fall apart. And he's not alone. More nations are finding ways around SWIFT. More are using local currencies. More are building alternative financial systems, like China's bridge, Russia's SBFS, and the BRICS settlement network. And the deeper the West pushes, the faster the world moves away. Because you can't force 80% of the planet to obey your rules, especially when those rules destroy livelihoods. Sooner or later, national interest wins. And when it does, the sanctions empire collapses. In conclusion, Colonel Douglas Macgregor gives us a rare and unfiltered look at the real forces shaping the post-Western world. Not ideology, not morality, but survival, sovereignty, and common sense. The globalist dream is over. The age of national resilience has begun, and no amount of sanctions, tariffs, or moralizing will stop it. Stay tuned for more analysis right here on The Informed Perspective. Until next time, stay informed and think critically.
And I think the third element, which again was very quietly said, was actually this development on, if you like, China's new, what I call it, the super monetary highway. This new currency and other that they're starting. Of course, your friends in the gold world will already know about it, but China quietly has made the yuan gold tradable. It can be transferred. It is tradable into gold on the Shanghai money exchanges. But what they're also doing is setting up a whole series of, if you like, vaults for gold storage. One is already in Hong Kong. Another one is being planned and is under construction in Saudi Arabia. And others are planned elsewhere, so that if you choose or have gold, you can trade it on Shanghai, but take delivery in Hong Kong or somewhere else. This is going to be huge. I mean, and what's more, Lavrov a few weeks ago just said, again, quietly, no razzmatazz, no great announcement. He said, we're going to extend the technology. This is the bridge technology. Originally, it was run by the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements. And that was an experiment. They called it M-Bridge. But then eventually the BIS said, oh, we can't do this because, you know, who knows, it might be used for evading sanctions. And that's after 4 years of running this thing. It was Chinese technology, so the Chinese have revamped it and put it into a new form, and it is now called the renminbi settlement process. But it's also called bridge for short. But this is going to be rolled out now to effectively the BRICS, the SCO, the Belt, Road and Belt Initiative, the East Asian Economic Community. We're talking about 80% of the world's population.